Good morning, racers. This is your weather briefing for Friday, the 10th of August, the Chicago Yacht Club Verve Offshore Regatta. This is brought to you by Nautica On. As always, the weather can change quickly, so make sure you're keeping up to date with the latest weather forecasts and warnings, the official advisories coming from the National Weather Service. The good news is it looks like we're in pretty good shape in terms of hazardous weather right through the weekend. I think conditions are going to be relatively benign. The storms that went through last night have moved off to the southeast. They'll continue to stay away from the area today. Friday, the official Weather Service thunderstorm outlook does have a general area of thunderstorms over Illinois and sort of the central Great Lakes region. However, I feel like that's not an issue for us in Chicago. I think if anything's going to develop, it would be well inland, perhaps along a lake breeze front or something like that. I think conditions are actually going to be pretty good on the lake tomorrow. And then for Sunday, same thing. It looks like the weather conditions will keep any risky thunderstorms away from us, and we should have pretty good weather conditions. This morning's weather map shows the cold front, which moved through overnight, basically, brought those thunderstorms last evening, is now down to the south, moving into northern Indiana. Our focus for most of the weekend is going to be this high pressure area out over Minnesota. This is going to kind of drift slowly to the southeast today and kind of take up a position on the Wisconsin-Iowa border and hold there, I think, for a couple of days. That will maintain a northerly component to the gradient down the lake. Today it's going to be probably a light moderate gradient. Not strong, but definitely should provide for some sailable breeze. That gradient gets weaker as we go into Saturday and Sunday, as we'll see, and the winds get lighter as a result. For the forecast for sorry, quick look at the satellite picture shows the cloud cover down to the southeast, a little bit of lingering debris cloud over us, but that should be clearing up. That cloud up over central Wisconsin, I don't believe that's an issue. That should dissipate after sunrise this morning. So I think we'll find some really nice weather conditions developing there. There may be some cumulus developing on thermals inland, but they'll stay away from the coast. Forecast for this afternoon shows the front kind of stationary across northern Indiana, that high pressure shifting to the south and east, and relatively light wind conditions across the lake. The green shading shows areas of showers and possible thunderstorms, and again, that all looks like it stays off to the south and east of us. By this evening, that front does start to drift further to the south. We can see the high pressure taking up its position basically on the Wisconsin-Iowa border, and again, relatively quiet weather conditions for the area. So looking at the forecast detail, this morning we're going to have kind of an initial push, I believe, of northerly gradient down the coast. And on this model forecast at 10 a.m., it's showing sort of a 10 to 13 knot push sort of from the northwest, coming right down through the course area, but much lighter offshore. Not all models are showing this this morning, so this is probably the most optimistic or strongest wind field forecast. A lot of other forecasts are showing us more in this section of the flow around this time, so somewhere in between these two. But what does happen is we start to get some heating over Chicago during the morning hours, and by midday we'll see this wind, even this northerly wind, start to die and start to veer to try and come on more onshore as a lake breeze component. So we go through a light patch basically in the midday period. We see that here on the wind field forecast for 1 p.m. You can see the winds now shifted around to the northeast on the course area and quite a bit lighter, around sort of a patchy 4 to 8 knots at this time. It's a little bit stronger inland where the ground is warmer and allowing mixing of higher speed air from aloft down to the surface, but with the lake water we don't get that heating, so it does stay lighter on the lake. But by the afternoon, we see an expectation that the gradient is going to get kind of reload, and that should back our breeze again to the left and bring it in more from the north-northeast during the mid to late afternoon, and also pick things back up sort of above 10 knots and perhaps into the low teens. It may even get up into the mid-teens, but I think right now if it gets that strong, it would be after racing is done for the day. Notice this little bend in the wind field. I've exaggerated there with that line, but that's a thermal effect. So a little bit more left shifted on the inshore side of the course area, and right shifted on the inshore side of the course area where it's bending into flow onshore, and left shifted on the offshore side where the gradient is more predominant. So looking at the forecast detail, what we have is, as I indicated, this possible little surge of pressure this morning. The wind may be up into the low to mid-teens perhaps, and also more in the left phase. But as the morning goes on and into the midday period, we see the wind shifting to the right and showing more lake breeze, and we do go through this lighter patchy period in the midday, early afternoon. And then we see the wind backing again left and starting to pick up from about 1-2 o'clock onward, where we get the gradient reloading our breeze. So reasonable start, then a little bit of a fade midday, and then the wind picking up again in the afternoon, getting more consistent and steady. Looking forward to tomorrow, we still see that high pressure out to the west of Chicago. That's going to maintain a light northerly gradient breeze. Our front is moving away to the south and east, so that's no longer an issue. We stay under the relatively nice conditions under that high pressure, and that high stays more or less in place through tomorrow evening. And we don't have a lot of isobars over the lake, so the gradient is continuing to be fairly light. In fact, with the high kind of ridging in toward the lake, it's going to get even lighter. And looks like tomorrow is mostly a lake breeze day, but pretty light. So if we look at the wind field detail right now, in the morning we see that gradient flow, but pretty light again, sort of around 5 knots, patchy along the shore. As we go into midday, the thermal starts to try and take hold, and that will veer the breeze around to the northeast and east-northeast, but it's quite light. When the wind has got a northerly gradient component, it does not develop the strongest lake breeze. The wind is actually a little bit stronger on the inshore side and gets lighter when you get out to the middle of the lake, where the wind is diverging out from where the lake breeze initiates. So pretty light, I think, midday tomorrow. And looking into the forecast, you can see that trend continues through the afternoon. I'm a little bit more optimistic than what the model is for tomorrow afternoon. After about 3 or 4 o'clock, I think we will get a little bit more lake breeze component than what this is showing. But as the lake breeze develops, it just veers to the right with time, and we actually get the breeze coming around a little bit south of east by tomorrow afternoon. But we'll look at that a little bit more closely tomorrow as we get better weather information. And here's the forecast detail as it stands at the moment. Those light northerly winds dying, getting very patchy and light in the midday period, veering around more toward the east and picking up a little bit with lake breeze effect in the mid-afternoon. For Sunday, still at high pressure hanging on there, and very nice weather, I think. Temperatures right through the weekend are basically going to be in the mid-upper 60s for lows and around 80 for highs, and lots of sunshine, so looks like great conditions. But with that high in close proximity, we've got slack gradient. Our real only forcing for Wind on Sunday is going to be lake breeze, so I'm expecting very light conditions in the morning, and then the wind shifting into a east northeast lake breeze and picking up gradually through the afternoon. And we see that here in this forecast detail, very light and patchy up until about 11, 12 o'clock. Wind coming in from the east northeast midday, and a modest build. Maybe if we're lucky, we'll touch 9 or 10 knots. So weather looking good. Today's probably the pick of the weekend in terms of pressure for wind, but otherwise, hope you all have a good time out there and make sure you're safe. Thank you.